الحمد لله نحمده ونستغفره ونستعينه ونشكره ونتوب إليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولا مثيل له ولا ضد له ولا ند له وأشهد أن نبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وعظيمنا وقائدنا وقرة أعيننا محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه وحبيبه من بعثه الله رحمة للعالمين هاديا مبشرا ونذيرا بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده فجزاه الله عنا خير ما جزى نبيا من أنبيائه فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. واللهم ارض عن ساداتنا أبو بكر وعمر وعثمان وعلي وعن سائر الصحابة والتابعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، عباد الله، فإني أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله العلي القدير القائل بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فبما رحمة من الله لنت لهم ولو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك فاعف عنهم واستغفر لهم وشاورهم في الأمر فإذا عزمت فتوكل على الله إن الله يحب المتوكلين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Imran, chapter 3, verse 159, so because of mercy from Allah, you dealt gently with them. The speech to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam that he dealt gently with the believers. And if you had been rude and harsh at the heart, surely they would have dispersed from around you. And this ayah was revealed after the battle of Uhud. Then pardon them and ask forgiveness for them and consult them in the matter. Then when you have decided, then put trust in Allah. Indeed, Allah loves the ones who put trust in Him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Ra'd, chapter 13, verse 11, له معقبات من بين يديه ومن خلفه يحفظونه من أمر الله إن الله لا يغير ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم وإذا أراد الله بقوم سوءا فلا مرد له وما لهم من دونه من وال. For him are successive angels before him and behind him who guard him by the command of Allah. Indeed, Allah does not change the condition of people until they change what is in themselves. And when Allah wills for people misfortune, then there is no turning away of it, and not for them beside Him any protector. The reason I'm reading this ayah is we are continuing and concluding today, inshallah, the topic of Shura. And I did not mention this topic, which our scholars and even non-Muslim scholars and historians say it's a lost treasure from the Muslims. So I mentioned this ayah that if we don't implement it ourselves in our daily lives, whether in our schools, in our families, our communities, our workplace, those of you in government work, you can apply the concept of Shura any place you are in, where you are observing the rights of Allah and observing the rights of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's what Shura or consultation is about. Well, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam told us عن أبي هريرة قال الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم المستشار مؤتمن, that Abu Huraira narrated that the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, one who is consulted is in a position of trust. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, who is a revelation, is teaching us those who are on board of communities, on board of companies, or in position of power or in position of consultation. This is not a position of status. This is not a position, look at me, what I do. This is a position of action. This is a position that you are trusted with, and the affairs of the Muslims or those who report to you or you are in charge of their affairs are on your shoulders, and in the day of judgment you will be questioned about them. That's what it means when Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam says, Al-Mustasharu Mu'taman, that those who are consulted are to be trusted. So Quran and Sunnah combined represent, as I always say, our constitution. That's our constitution. Much like the constitution of other countries, but this is our constitution. Just as any other government, they adhere to their constitution when passing new laws. Us Muslims, the constitution being our superior document, is the Quran and Sunnah to Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. The basic tenets of this divine constitution, Al-Quran and Sunnah, cannot be violated by anyone, not even leaders or popular movements. This means that the powerful cannot manipulate the system to their own advantage. This is exactly what's happening in the Muslim world today. Certain rules and principles must be upheld and cannot be overruled, such as basic human rights like equalities. Last time I brought examples from Sunnah Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, how he was doing consultation or shura among his companions, especially when in affairs there is no divine revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He would always consult with them. Today I'm going to mention the next era where shura or consultation was also a perfect exercise implementation. As we mentioned before, shura was implemented perfectly at 100% in two eras only, 53 years. The era of the prophethood and the era of the rightly guided Khalif. Al-Khalifa Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, as we know, may Allah be pleased with him, was nominated through Ahl al-Hall wal-Aqd. The people, what's equivalent today is Parliament or Congress, whatever you want to call it. The specialized people who are elected from the people to elect a president or a Khalifa or the person in charge. And when he was nominated to be the Khalifa, and he didn't want to be the Khalif. He knew that was a huge responsibility for him. And he reluctantly accepted it. And after he accepted it, after the election, and he accepted it, he gave the famous speech when he said, I am elected not because I am the best of you. If I do my job thoroughly, follow me and help me. If I deviate from the right path to corruption, bring me back to the right path. This is what Al-Khalifa Abu Bakr teaches. We keep, like I mentioned last time, we keep mentioning Hadrat Abu Bakr, Hadrat Umar, Hadrat Uthman, Hadrat Ali, and we don't follow anything from their teaching. This is what he said. So he didn't accept it as a position of status. He accepted it reluctantly because he knew it was a responsibility. Al-Khalifa Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, when the same way he was elected through the parliament of that time, Ahl al-Hall wal-Aqd. And he also accepted it reluctantly. He did not want to be the Khalif because he's so much into justice and he was always afraid to be unfair to someone. And he left us a legacy of leadership which modern leaders can learn from. When he took over, he said, in the performance of my duties, I will seek guidance from the Holy Book, from the Quran, and will follow the examples set by the Holy Prophet and Abu Bakr. May Allah be pleased with him. In this task, I seek your assistance, he said. If I follow the right path, follow me. If I deviate from the right path, correct me so that we are not led astray. He's teaching us when the ruler, when the person in charge is going astray, and if he is not being corrected, the whole community, the whole state, the whole country will be deviated. And this is exactly what's happening in the Muslim countries. He went far enough to say, if a mule stumbled in Iraq, I would be afraid that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would ask me, why did you not pave the road for it, Omar? This is the degree of leadership he had. He also taught us important keys in leadership, which did not get applied Well, some of them got applied after him in the Mordacious rulership or monarchies, which is the rulership by inheritance. But after that, the tyrannic monarchies, which been having since 1909, none of what I'm about to say is being applied. The first one is no-nepotism, he said, or hereditary succession, meaning the rulership should not be based on family. A father dies, gives it to his son or his brother. That is exactly what happened after the rightly guided Khalif. They deviated from that. The next three, it was applied during the Mordacious monarchy, Mulk al-Aad. It was applied all the way until the end of or toward the end of the Ottoman Empire, until 1909. But after that, everything was violated. The second thing he said, the people should be able to reach the leader easily to voice any of their concerns or suggestions. That's what he taught us. That doesn't get applied today either. The ruler should seek counsel, accept criticism, and be willing to rectify his mistakes. That doesn't get applied today either. It got applied after the rightly guided Khalif, but it doesn't get applied today. The army, according to Khalifa Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, said, exists to protect the people of the nation, not protect the leader of the people. This is exactly opposite what's happening today. To the degree the Muslim armies are considered, according to one American writer, armies of sand. They cannot win any battle because they are not trained to defend the land. They are trained to defend the tyrants. That's what's happening today. We are not applying the teaching of our rightly guided Khalif, but we just mention them by name, like as if we're gonna get blessed just by mentioning their names. We get blessed by following their teaching. Khalifa Osman, he was also, may Allah be pleased with him, was also elected through Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, or what's equivalent to our today Congress or Parliament. During his time, there was a problem because Islam was being expanded, and there was a problem in reading the Quran. There were people following the dialect of Quraysh and people following the dialect of Damascus. And one of the companions of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman, may Allah be pleased with him, he was afraid that the teaching of the Quran and the proper reading of the Quran was going to be lost. So he went and, being in panic, and told the Khalifa Osman the problem to save the day and to resolve it. So Khalifa Osman did not want to make a decision like that on his own. He gathered the people of Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, again what's equivalent to our Parliament or Congress today. From among them was Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman wal Khalifa Ali, may Allah be pleased with him. And they discussed it. They were giving and taking with each other, and they decided collectively, and he was obliged, the Khalifa Osman, to follow that, to make the dialect of Quraysh, since it's the dialect of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, to be followed in the reading of the Quran. And that the decision was made. Some people objected. Khalifa Ali came up and defended the opinion, and he said, I was among the people who were making that consultation with Khalifa Osman, and that was the right decision, and if I were in his place, I would make the same decision, right? So and he's teaching us over here, like, and I mentioned it I think last time, that the huge difference between a Shura and democracy. In democracy, the representatives have to follow the masses, even if it's illegal or immoral or unethical. In Shura, we don't follow the masses. We educate, we lead by action, we lead the narrative. We explain it to them, and that's exactly what Khalifa Umar, Khalifa Ali, Khalifa Uthman, and Hudayfa ibn al-Yaman educated people, even though they objected to the decision, and they were fine with it. Khalifa Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, came afterward. Khalifa Ali was elected differently. He was not elected through what we call today a parliament or through Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd or Congress. He was elected directly from the people. So they're teaching us there are different methodology of electing a leader. It could be through a council, Shura Council, or it could be direct the people. Both ways are correct, but let the people choose. And during his Khilafah, we know that he had a lot of tribulations and a lot of fitan among the Muslims. He did not make the decision out of anger to go and fight them and kill them. He consulted with the people. He did not raise his sword against other Muslims until they left the sword against him and fought him. But he stayed in consultation with the Muslims and with his Shura Council, or Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, or the Congress, what's equivalent to a Congress. And right after that came his son, Al-Khalifa al-Imam al-Hassan. He was elected directly also in al-Kufa by the people, not through Ahl al-Hal wal-Aqd, and it was permissible, as we know. But he stayed 6 months. And the reason he stayed 6 months is because he wanted to prevent a tribulation among the Muslims. He wanted to cause the unity among the Muslims. And it's like Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam said, this son of mine will unite the Ummah. And it's during his time, the Ummah was united. He did not concede to Khalifa Muawiyah because he was scared of him. He conceded to him because he recognized that Khalifa Muawiyah was more qualified and will unite the Ummah and is stronger and has more people, and he worried about the future of the Muslim Ummah. And that's why he did what he did, and he did it with consultation with his own cousin Abdullah ibn Abbas and Abdullah ibn Umar and other main companions of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. And that was the right decision that he made to protect the unity of the Muslim Ummah back then. And that's what they were concerned about. These are the examples we had from our Prophet and from the rightly guided Khalifs that we have, that we need to learn from. Where are the rights of the people or the subjects were paramount, and the people were given the opportunity to thrive. These standards are especially relevant for our world today, in our quest for implementing a shura or consultation, or what some Muslims call it today just to appease to the non-Muslims. They call it mistakenly Islamic democracy. We are 100 times better than democracy, because democracy does not observe the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We observe the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rights of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is a fundamental inclination in reputable hadith to adhere to the point of view agreed upon by the majority of those who have been consulted. The same implication can be derived from the tradition where the Messenger ﷺ told Al-Khalifa Abu Bakr wa Umar, both of them, if the two of you were to agree on a given matter, I would not challenge any counsel you might give me. This is how Rasul ﷺ was. Regarding points of view that will become binding legislation for community, the worthy, not corrupt, majority view should be adopted and adhered by consultative councils and bodies with decision-making powers. The prophetic hadith and other traditions also warn us against corruption of Islamic society from ruling elite. That's what we have today, namely its scholars and political leaders, whose corruption can ruin the community just as their honor and integrity can deform and bless it. In the Quran, the contrast and comparison are not between small numbers and large numbers, but rather between good and bad choices. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, whose rule in all matters of common concern is consultation among themselves, suggests that in true consultation, the view adopted in communal and the decision made are shared in common rather than made by a single individual. And this is unfortunately what's happening in our Muslim ummahs and in our communities. The principles of giving greater weight to the majority has been supported and applied by Muslim scholars from early days. Hadith scholars, for example, give greater weight to accounts supported by large numbers of narrators. Similarly, jurists, fuqaha, and scholars of the principle of jurisprudence give greater weight of juristic interpretation supported by a larger number of academics and thinkers. إجماع العلماء يعني, the consensus of the scholars. If scholars disagree on an issue, the soundest approach is to adopt the view held by the majority. That's something we are not doing today. The last thing I want to talk about is the 4 principles that we are taught from Shura, and that's what I'm going to conclude with. The first principle taught to us by Al-Khalifa Umar when he was in deathbed. He was asked to appoint the next Khalifa. He refused to do that because he does not want to set the precedent that this is how you pick your leaders. He wants the people to choose the leaders. What happened after the rightly guided Khalif? Exactly the opposite. What's happening today? Exactly the opposite. A king dies, his son or his brother takes over. A president dies, his son or his brother takes over. We don't even have this teaching anymore. But the Shura teaches us that let the people choose their leadership, whether through their Congress or through direct elections. The second thing is what we call in Usul al-Fiqh, in the Islamic jurisprudence, is Sadd al-Dhara'i'. Sadd al-Dhara'i' is something legitimate and permissible, is used for a purpose other than the one for which it was intended. So you're preventing the doing of something that is halal for fear that will lead to do something haram. One example is from the Quran. I'll bring an example from the Quran and the Sunnah. From the Quran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala orders us in the Quran, even though it's okay, but He tells us, do not curse other religions or those who take partnership with Allah for fear that they will curse Allah. We know they are on the wrong track. We know they are not on the straight path. They know they are wrong. We know they're going to the hellfire. But we don't go and curse them and curse their religion for fear that they will curse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is, our scholars tell us, this is from an example of Sadd al-Dhara'i'. The second example, during the time of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, we had the hypocrites of faith. We know the hypocrites is 2 actions, hypocrites of faith and hypocrite of actions. Hypocrite of faith is those who say we are Muslims, but they are not Muslims. But who are we to decide they are not Muslims? We don't know what's in their heart. So Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, even though he knew they were not Muslims, even though it was, and they were always making troubles for the Muslim nation at that time, and it was okay for him to put them, lock them up, or even kill them, but he said he did not do so because he left them in peace in application of the principle of Sadd al-Dhara'i', because he was afraid that it will frighten people away from Islam. So even though it was okay to lock them up or punish them and these things, but he didn't do it because he was afraid that other people who want to enter into Islam will be frightened about entering Islam. The third principle that the Shura or consultation teaches is the main principle of it is al-masalih al-mursala, which is the public interest of the people. Islamic law is intended to serve people spiritual and material interest. Islamic law does not specify all human interest in detail, it's gray color, nor does it spell it out of the ruling required to preserve such interests, which are not only numerous but also multifaceted and increasing number by the day, and it differs from one era, from one generation to other. So when it comes to public interest, that changes with changing of time. But from a Shura, we always have to adhere to the rights of Allah and the rights of the creation of Allah. And the last principle of the Shura that it teaches, it's okay for us to borrow other principles or things from non-Muslims, especially when it comes to organizational matters, administrative procedures, and education regarding sciences. Something that we don't have. Alright, as long as we don't take from them what violates the rights of Allah, we can take other things that help us organize better, educate ourselves in sciences or finances or these things better, as long as we make sure And we're doing it for the public interest after all. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. Ask Allah for forgiveness. He is the most forgiving, the most merciful. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ولي الصالحين وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Individuals and groups committed to Shura or consultative practice will lead the way to sound Islamic rule and will form the community's primary support. Let us remember when Allah tells us again, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, whose rule in all matters of common concern as consultation among themselves, was revealed to the Muslim community in Medina when it consisted only of just a small group. They were smaller, literally smaller than our community in the greater Danbury area. The spirit of consultation needs to spread throughout the entire culture, Islamic culture, in which we live. It needs to become the prevailing way of life. Consultation will only succeed and endure in an atmosphere of freedom. Freedom of conscience, freedom of thought, and freedom of choice. Something we don't have in the Muslim Ummah. And the last thing I want to advise the youth. Before I advise you on the Shura, I want to advise you, if you make a decision not to go for higher education and train yourself to have degrees, you will be among the self-defeated, weak, unuseful Muslim. You need to go and get an education. We Muslims, for generations, set the standards of education. We, Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia, Africa, were following the standards of education of Muslims up until the 17th century. We said it. We need to go back to those days where we set the standards of education. We cannot set that standard if you don't have a degree. So if you choose not to go and have a higher education, you will be among the ignorant, illiterate, self-defeated Muslims and unuseful. You need to get your education. And you need to use it and learn how to have Shura when you are in school through the Muslim Student Association or organization. And when you go to your work, you need to apply it at your work to move up the ladder. This is how you move up the ladder. When you apply the concepts of Shura among your colleagues and at work. And if it doesn't work, you move your job to another one. And that's how you move up the ladder in your career. But to choose not to go for higher education, that's choosing defeat. And we are not self-defeated people. We are victorious people. And to follow Sunnah Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, this is what he used to emphasize on, education. So we reach to the highest level of power through education. And I'm talking about, not everybody can be a scholar. I'm talking about the science or education or finance or whatever you choose to be. And at the end, I would like to remind myself first and foremost, and you with the hadith of Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam, 2 words, very heavy in the scale of good deeds, very light on the tongue. Subhanallah bihamdih, Subhanallah al-Azim. Say it at least 100 times a day. And I remind you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in the Quran to send prayers on Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam when he told us in the Quran, Inna Allaha wa malaikatuhu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم ربنا آمنا بما أنزلت واتبعنا الرسول فاكتبنا مع الشاهدين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة.